Okay, so we've been drawing 1-point boxes and letters with linear perspective. Today what I want to talk to you about is doing the element of value. And in an artwork, value is about the lightness and darkness in an artwork. A lot of times my students will refer to this as shading, right? So typically that's what we call it. For what we're going to do today, we're going to switch from the mechanical pencil that we've been using to get those nice sharp light lines, those receding lines to our vanishing points, and we're going to switch to just a regular number 2 pencil, right? It says an HB on here. That's actually kind of a lighter valued pencil, but if you push hard with your hand, you could get it fairly dark. So for the sake of shading our boxes, this will work out quite well. If you shade with this, you can do it. It just uses a lot of graphite and it's not as efficient. And sometimes you can get a little softer blends with this. For what we're going to do, and I'll just kind of demonstrate this quickly, we really only need like 3 to 4 values. Really only 3. So if you kind of think of it, this one could be white, really. And what we'll do here is just lightening my pressure. And I don't want to say coloring, but kind of lightly shading this box in, kind of going in the same direction. I can create kind of a light gray, right? Then in this box, all I want to do is do a little bit more pressure to create a bit of a darker gray. I can always come back over it. I could even come back over it going a different direction, kind of cross hatching, so to speak. You can blur your eyes at these just to make sure you see enough of a difference between them, right? You can also go back with consecutive layers and kind of smooth them out. So typically in a Drawing 1 class, we're really teaching students to do this from, sort of putting heavy pressure and then lightening our pressure and maybe using multiple pencils of different graphite hardness to achieve dark values versus light values. We don't really need to do this smooth gradation with our boxes because we really can just shade each individual face a different value. So when you do this, anytime you shade something, what you really need to do is know one question. The main question when you need to shade something is what? What do I need to know first? You guys can answer even though this is a video. What do you think? Before you can shade something, what do you need to know? Ah, very well done. A light source. We need to know where the light's coming from to determine in which direction the values will be brightest or darkest. So in this case, for our exercise, I think it might just be beneficial for us to just say, let's make our vanishing point the light source. It'll just be efficient and it'll probably give you the best variety. So in this case, what I'll have to do then is make maybe this face is going to be, I guess, a 0 because it's closest to my light source. I might just make this face then maybe the number 2 or maybe the number 3. As long as it's different, I'll be all right. And what you're going to kind of do is, I guess, maintain one dominant direction, but you can go over them in multiple directions and kind of layer them together to create kind of a smooth value. In design class, we're not so focused on learning how to shade, but I'd like you to be able to do some basic shading, and you'll be surprised that even just by creating, 2 to 3 values, you can actually create some dimension. Let me show you what this might look like on a box like this. And I would recommend maybe having these in your sketchbook. If you are working on a worksheet like me, put a few sheets, put this sheet on top of your workbook or your visual journal, just so you don't pick up the scratches of the table below. All right? Here I'm going to have to make a decision. I need to make one brighter than the other. I'm just going to say for this example that this one is getting the most light. All right? So I'll make this one a little bit darker. We'll make this value 1. I'm going to kind of go quickly here to make this a little shorter so you guys can get to work, but you can take your time on these. I'm going to make this one a little bit darker, even though it's on the same kind of plane as that one. Because it's overlapped by this little shape here, I'll make it a little darker. I'll make this the same up here as this. So this will be 2, this will be 3. And maybe for the sake of this exercise, I might have to make this like a level 4, you know, or maybe we just make it we just have to make it, and this is good that this is happening, we have to make it so each of the faces stand out. If I get my, here's what's happening over here, my contrast is getting about the same value. When you get about the same value, you can't see the shapes, like the edges, right? So anytime you're, as an artist, when you're shading or painting, and you make an edge or a value too close to another value, you might lose your drawing or the dimension, the illusion of depth. If that happens as you're shading these, what you'll have to do is come back and kind of eraser shade. You either need to darken or lighten the value that's next to it. So let me show you that quickly, and then you have a strategy for how to do that on your own as you work on shading these outside of class. I don't really ever give homework, but this might be a homework for you because you might not have enough time today with our shortened schedule. So that's working out pretty well. It looks better on my screen than or looks better to my eye than it does on that camera there. But I can see the dimension of this, right? What I can't see is this little guy here. So what I'm going to have to do is either darken this by pushing even harder. What I'll likely have to do too is I might have to take like an eraser. There's these little pencil toppers you guys could use, and I could kind of lighten up that section there, right? You can see how that gets collected. You can kind of clean your eraser, and you can come back and lighten a little bit more. You could use a little kneaded or clay eraser to do this, but I kind of just like to be able to just do it with this. And we can come back and kind of smooth that transition out. All we're wanting to do is make sure that we can see the dimension over there, right? So now I can clearly see that there's a piece back here. So you might need to do some little bit of shading. And if you like the look of it, kind of going from light to dark, you could do that as well. Just as long as one face is dominantly different than the other, okay? I really like eraser shading, sometimes better than I like just regular pencil shading, because I feel like it's easier for me to get things darker and then kind of back things off, okay? So there's some basics for you on the element of value. What I'd like you to do is shade this one completely.